Now this, a new Politico piece says Governor Newsom is the front runner for the 2028 presidential election. We have Allysia Finley from the Wall Street Journal with us here in New York this morning. You agree with that, Newsom, front runner?
Oh, God help us.
You're terrible.
Well, I think if you look at the polls, he is at this moment.
He is.
I think what's going to be his biggest Achilles heel is the state of California, not just the economy. Okay, the economy, if you look at the GDP on paper, it's pretty strong, but half of its GDP growth since 2022 has been tech. It's all AI. The state is losing jobs in just about every industry but healthcare, social assistance, and government. Yeah. You've had rising gasoline prices. They're about $5 now, and a USC report or study estimated they could go up to $8 by the end of next year owing to the closure of 2 refineries. You know, the electricity prices are about double the nationwide average. There are a lot of economic and political liabilities that are going to be trailing him.
If he ever did become the candidate, every Republican would simply say, he wants to make the rest of America as bad as California. You're right. How do you run against your own record in not a failing state, but a state that really has its significant problems?
Well, it is a failed state, but as the there's much ruin in a state, and I think Gavin Newsom is proving it. And he even said that this is going to be a problem for him. He said that some people have California quote-unquote derangement syndrome. I think people just look at it as a poster child of failed progressive governments, which it is.
Yeah. The next one for you, Allysia. President Trump says New York City Mayor-elect Mandami wants a meeting at the White House. Watch this.
The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York.
OK, Allysia, A, do you think the meeting will take place? And B, if it did take place, what would happen?
Well, I think Mamdani's wants to go to White House hat in hand to get more money, federal revenues. They need New York State and the city wants more money to fund its subways, which are $30 billion in hock. And so they're going to want money from Congress and the White House to appropriate more money for that. Lord help us if there's a recession. They're going to be wanting more money for these quote-unquote automatic stabilizers, in other words, unemployment benefits. That's what they want. Now, I think Trump really loves New York, and he cares about this, the safety of its citizens. So there may be some bargain to be had in terms of policy concessions that Mandami might have made on public safety in order to get maybe more money from the government.
There would have to be big concessions from Mandami, especially on security. I mean, the man's already said all kinds of things about the police force, what he's going to do to them.
I think that's right. But the irony, of course, is that the people who are harmed most by Mamdami's policies, crime policies, are low-income minority people. I saw yesterday a little delivery boy who got his electric bike stolen. Just right off the street.
You were there? You saw this?
I was there. I was actually looking outside my window when it happened. It was very tragic, but this is happening all over the city, and I think eventually he'll come under pressure from many even minorities to do something about crime.
Well, there's a question of what he can get done. Can he get taxes raised? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, it'll happen. It'll be Hochul's call on that.
Yes. Well, look, hundreds of Mandami supporters yesterday, they held a rally in New York City. They were chanting away, tax the rich, tax the rich. I think that's going to become a mantra for the whole Democrat Party for 2026.
Well, I think I think you're right. If you saw there was a ballot referendum in Massachusetts to raise taxes on the rich a couple of years ago, and it succeeded. They've already raised the top rate in Maryland. In Washington State, they've raised the top capital gains rate, and they've been very successful pushing this. And so I think that you're right. There's a lot of grievance toward the wealthy, part because stock prices are up and everyone else has been languishing. But that's actually partly a result of Biden's policies that cause real income wages to stagnate.
Hard to make people understand that, though. Inflation was Biden's fault. That's the way it is. And it's hard to make people think that after a couple of years of Trump, it's not his fault if prices are rising.
No, I think that's right. I mean, tariffs to some extent may be contributing, but this is really a legacy of the Biden administration, the Fed's inability to get inflation completely under control, and the excessive spending on things like handouts that they want more of.
Indeed. Allysia, thank you very much for being with us. We always appreciate it. Can see you soon.